So for my final project, I decided to work on workplace comedies, and the comedies that I have chosen to work on were The Office and Superstore. I've decided to compare and contrast both of these shows because while watching Superstore, I found that it drawed very similar ideas and archetypes as compared to The Office, which I had watched a few years back. I believe that both of these shows are very similar, but they also have differences that work into play for each of the shows. So I'm just going to go throughout those ideas in this slideshow. So with The Office and Superstore, they both draw, again, of course, in a workplace. Dunder Mifflin is the workplace in The Office, which is a paper company, and Superstore is a Walmart-like type grocery store, kind of like an H-E-B, and their workplace is called Cloud9. One thing that I found that was interesting was that both of the shows have this around the same people working in the shows. So Justin Spitzer, who created Superstore, was a writer on The Office and was also an executive producer. And Greg Daniels was an executive producer for The Office and is now for Superstore. Both of these shows are primarily focused on the daily work life of their workers, and they have an emphasis on the different workplace relationships and how all of their personalities work in within each other. I do believe that they both focus on a central heterosexual love story with a woman who is fairly unattainable at the beginning, and with a male coworker who is just simply interested. And I also feel that they have similar character archetypes for each of their characters, as well as side characters. So for this next slide, I do have a screen grab of both couples. So the first top one is Amy and Jonah, and the bottom one is obviously Jim and Pam. Amy and Jonah, this is kind of like their first meeting, their first day with each other. So Jonah gets hired right on the spot, and Amy is the supervisor at this Cloud9, which is the store name in Superstore. And you can kind of tell from the look on Jonah's face, he's pretty attracted to Amy. He kind of likes her and sees, I don't know, something in her, even though they literally just met probably like an hour ago, but it's TV things, we know. For Jim and Pam, I feel like theirs is more of like a history type thing. I don't believe the show doesn't take place the first day that they met each other, so they've known each other for a few years. They've worked with each other a lot, so I think you do see that comfort between the two of them, and so I do think that's where they draw a difference. But I mean, this love story is pretty much the centric love story in both of the shows, at least for the first few seasons. I know that in the most recent season, Jonah and Amy just broke up, and I did read something that the producers didn't want Amy and Jonah to be like Jim and Pam in the way that you knew that they were going to get together, you knew that they were going to end up together, but it was never a question on if they were meant to be together. I feel like for Amy and Jonah, they wanted to take that aspect away and just kind of leave the audience guessing. Next, I'm just going to be talking about the different character archetypes that each show has and how they are very similar to each other. The first pair that I have is Stanley from The Office and Garrett from Superstore. Both of them are African American males, and they both seem to just do what they can to get by in their job. They both are very carefree, and they both play into the comedic relief of the shows. They both are just there pretty much for the laughs. The big difference is Garrett is disabled, but I feel like that doesn't really have a big factor in his character. It's kind of just inclusivity, I believe. But they both aren't really involved in any huge character plots. Again, they're kind of just there for the comedic relief, and they're also very funny. The next pair I have is Oscar from The Office and Mateo from Superstore. I found this pair to be very interesting because both of them are men of color who so happen to play the gay character in the series. Oscar is Hispanic and Mateo is Filipino, but he also has Hispanic in him, so it's very similar. I do feel like their personalities differ a little bit. Mateo very much likes to show off and show that he knows what he's doing better than his other coworkers, while Oscar just does his job and doesn't want to be harassed by Michael Scott for being gay. You know, I feel like they are more accepting of Mateo in Superstore with him being gay rather than in The Office, where Oscar's kind of made fun of for being gay. So the next two that I am going to be comparing are Dwight and Dina. Both of these characters are very, very odd in the sense that no one like them probably exists in the outside real world. They're kind of just TV characters for the funny kind of weirdness of them. Both of them are pretty aggressive in the way that they are with their coworkers. They're kind of just like very aggressive. Both of them demand respect within their authority figure of their job. So, of course, Dina is the actual assistant store manager, and Dwight likes to think of himself as the assistant store manager. I feel like both of these characters help out their fellow manager be more of the authoritative or voice of discipline role. Both of them seem to want that role and carry that role well, and really that's pretty much their character's goal, is to strive to be not necessarily the best, but the person with the most authority. And lastly, I have Michael and Glenn, who are both the leads of their store. Michael's the store manager or the store boss, while Glenn is the actual store manager of Cloud9. I feel like both of them are pretty similar in their roles as the authority figure, but they are the most different character-wise, like personality-wise. Michael, I very much associate with being very ignorant and selfish, but that's, again, what we love about him. That's why he's so funny. While Glenn is portrayed as a Christian man who kind of just wants to do good and kind of wants to be everyone's best friend. I find their similarity to be that they both seem pretty incompetent to be in their positions, but both for different reasons. Michael is more incompetent in the way that he's just immature and awkward, I guess, and Glenn is kind of just like too nice to be authoritative, and again, Dina helps him a lot out with that in Superstore. And lastly, I have the meaningful differences of the two shows. I feel like the shots are very different in the way that they are chosen to be shot. So Superstore is a multi-camera setup, kind of like a sitcom, more of a traditional sitcom, while The Office is a full-on mockumentary style setup. I feel that The Office does this just for the interview type of style where they can kind of just say what they want. Rather than having the character, I guess, be by themselves. It's kind of like they're ranting in a diary type of situation, and I feel like that helps out a lot with context of what the character is thinking inside their heads, and it allows for more funny reactions. I do feel like Superstore deals with a lot more serious things, such as teenage workers and dealing with customers, and although those aren't very serious, dealing with customers is kind of like a hard thing, and if anyone is in retail or customer service, they know and can relate to those characters as well. But with the more serious storylines, I feel like Superstore does that very well. So they have women in authority positions like Dina, and who's the assistant store manager, and Amy, who is the supervisor. While The Office doesn't really have any females in an authority position. They also do deal with like deportation and teenage pregnancy, and I do feel like the show coming out within the past like 5 years has helped that Superstore really allow them to use those more serious plot lines, because it's kind of like it wasn't really a hot topic back whenever The Office was being shot, but now in 2015 through 2020 a lot of those ideas are very much mainstreamed, so I feel like that allows Superstore to have that type of conflict in their show. So that's all that I have, and thank you for listening to this presentation.